I'm blushing. President Hinton, distinguished faculty, parents, family, friends, sisters, and the class of 2016. What a day. You must be freaking out. But I'm here to be the antidote to your freak out. Let me start you with a story. 18 years ago, I sat where you sit now, except I was probably far worse off than any of you. I was in danger of not graduating, and only I knew it. I had not fully understood that my international relations course was core to my major, and had sort of blown it off, and it turned out I needed to get a B- in it, and I wasn't going to unless I got a 95 on the final. Oh yeah. To this day, I have nightmares about the entire week. I studied like a maniac, and with the help of an added extra credit question on the exam, I received a score of 104. I found out from my professor 30 minutes before I had to leave for graduation, with my parents already in town, that I was good to go. To this day, they have no idea that they almost traveled 1,200 miles to Wisconsin for nothing but a good steak dinner. When I graduated, I was really confused. I'd spent 2 summers interning with then Congressman Bernie Sanders. Yes, I've worked for Bernie Sanders, John Kerry, and Barack Obama. I'm kind of the Forrest Gump of politics. I thought that with all of my internships and all the jobs I had during college to afford my internships, that I would be rewarded with a sweet job on Capitol Hill. I wrote letters and faxed them to any member or senator that interested me even slightly. And here you must take comfort in the advent of email. I got no response. Then my dad told me a story about how when he had been at NYU, he really wanted to work for IBM in New York City, but he had only gotten offers from companies in Hartford, and how if he didn't hear from IBM, he was going to have to get on the train to Hartford because you have to do what you have to do. And I said, but Pop, you ended up working at IBM. And he said, yep. And I said, are you telling me to get on the train to Hartford? And he didn't reply, but I did get on the metaphorical train to Hartford. I ended up spending the summer of 1998 in Madison, and then going to a headhunter in New York City. I had to do 4 interviews with the same firm, but finally got a job as a real estate paralegal. Real estate investment trusts would be my jam. I was devastated. I felt like my whole life plan was essentially in the garbage. But here's what I learned. It all turns out okay. Because before you stands a woman of 5 feet, 2 inches, who's seen a lot in the last 18 years. I've been a paralegal. I was a secretary, though that was only for 5 days. An assistant at a startup company, a client relations liaison at Sotheby's. I worked at a Republican lobbying firm, though never registered. I was the press secretary for the 9th District of Virginia and had to pretend I was from West Virginia because they don't like New Yorkers in the Fighting 9th. I worked on John Kerry's presidential campaign. I led his search for a vice president and fell asleep on Madeleine Albright's couch watching Footloose while he met with John Edwards. I remember this because John Kerry had to wake me up to ask how they were going to get out of the house. I went to work for Barack Obama when he was elected to the US Senate. I became his political director. I helped him decide whether or not to run for president. I worked on the campaign. When we won, I worked on the presidential transition team and the inaugural committee. I had an office in the West Wing, and when I became deputy chief of staff for operations, I heard I was the first woman to occupy the office next to the Oval. My predecessors were David Plouffe, David Axelrod, Karl Rove, George Stephanopoulos, and now Mayor of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel. My Secret Service codename was Popsicle. I picked it myself. I ate goat with President Karzai's security guards in Afghanistan. I have met the Queen, Pope Francis, and I attended Nelson Mandela's funeral. I accidentally showed up to Buckingham Palace in jeans. And I split my skirt once getting on Marine One, and the White House doctor had to pin me together so I didn't flash the president. It's a true story. And how did I do it all, you wonder? I was always myself, nothing more, nothing less, and I worked really hard. I always tried to be lighthearted enough to not let the little things bring me down. So now, I hope you're more relaxed, feeling good, and ready for what I like to call my North Stars. I know that here at the College of St. Benedict, CSB stands for Courageous, Strong, and Bold. Well, that's good news. You're already halfway there. You will need each one of those in the coming months, along with some resilience, determination, and definitely a lot of humor. So first, Bennies, learn to define success very broadly. I am 40 years old, and I just paid off my Ford Escape. The day that I did, I called my dad. And even though I am 40, he was still very proud that I finally owned my car. That's important, because I guarantee that 95% of you will not have come anywhere near achieving what you have conjured up in your minds as the threshold for success in the next year. You will sign leases for the first time and pay your own rent. You will interview for jobs, and you will get one. You will have to meet so many new people, make new friends, and adjust to new environments. And you have to look at each one of those as a success, and honestly, a very important achievement. Success should be defined as getting up every day, doing your best, being financially independent, and learning from every experience that is taking you where you're going. Second, trust your gut. When I got to New York after leaving Madison, I lost my way big time. I was working in the World Trade Center and surrounded by bankers and brokers and kids my age in this thing called the training program that financial houses like Chase, Lehman, and Bear Stearns all had, where college graduates came in and rotated through different departments. I decided that's what I should do. Goodbye, dreams of public service. Hello, Vin Diesel in the boiler room. I applied to be a trading desk assistant in international paper trading at Lehman Brothers. I went through 14 rounds of interviews. I had minored in French and Japanese in college, which apparently was very attractive. Finally, I made it to the last interview and had been assured the job was all but mine. $28,000 a year plus overtime. When Francis X. Gilhooly, I remember his name, asked me why I wanted to work at Lehman, I went totally blank. I stared at him and then I said, I don't. And I didn't. A year later, I went up to Boston and I saw Senator John Kerry give a speech. I was so excited by it that I wrote his intern coordinator a letter. It was bordering on Jerry Maguire manifesto. And I asked them to please give me a chance. That's actually what I said, truly. Please give me a chance. And they did. I was offered $19,000 to be an office assistant, to answer phones, do press clips, which again, not to remind you how much luckier you are now than I was then, but doing clips was a much harder task before the internet. It involved cutting, gluing, shrinking, copying, and faxing. But I was going to be an amazing gopher. I did the math and realized I'd be broke, and got a babysitting job 2 nights a week and had the time of my life. I knew taking a pay cut and moving to a new city was a risk, but I knew it was as right for me as I knew working at Lehman Brothers, which no longer exists, was wrong for me. Third, always be yourself. Pay attention here. I have never been successful in an endeavor when I tried to be anybody but me. Some truths. I'm a very casual person, both in conversation and in dress, and I'm most productive when I'm comfortable. An upside now of working at a millennial media company, I can assure you there is no dress code advice. And if I feel like wearing leggings and Birkenstocks, no one will tell me otherwise. Don't hide what you like, let your freak flag fly. What makes you different makes you you, and that's what makes you interesting. Fourth, don't forget friendship, kindness, and humanity along the way. I hope this story doesn't depress you, because today is certainly not the day for that, but I can't help myself because it's very personal and I wanted to share it with you. At the White House, we were a family, dysfunctional at times, but a family nonetheless. My team was tight-knit. We tried to support each other in every way possible. We had been around the world together. We had been witnesses to the fallout of tragedies like Newtown, the shootings in Aurora, and seen the devastation firsthand from Hurricane Sandy, the Joplin tornadoes, and every flood and wildfire of the past 8 years. A few years ago, one of the team was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. He had already left the White House and was living out west. He went through rounds of treatments and he was in remission, but the cancer came back and he was able to get a stem cell transplant. But we got word in August that his body was fighting the transplant and he didn't have much time. The day I heard the news, I bought a ticket to Houston to see him at MD Anderson. But it wasn't just me who did. Within 24 hours of that email, 40 of us from the White House had shown up, and within 48 hours, 70 of us had shown up. He spent his last days with us, his friends, our memories, some beer and barbecue. Seeing that all these people I had brought together in the White House were so bonded that they flew from around the country and around the world to be together as a family during this time, I view as one of my very greatest accomplishments. A team built to last well beyond the 18 acres of the White House campus. Be kind, make the effort, always be thoughtful. Fifth, take risks. When David Plouffe was my boss on the Obama campaign, he would always say that if we weren't on the high wire, we were losing. And when I look back over the last years, every real achievement in my life came from taking a risk. And here's the truth, the worst you can do is fail. Big deal. Failing is just a reason to try something new. Embrace it. Never stop trying and never stop failing. And here is my last one. And this one's real. Invest in a good pair of black shoes and red lipstick. With that, you can go anywhere, anytime. And actually, there's one more. Put your iPhones down and shut off social media once in a while. Make sure you live in the moment as much as you can. And let me say this, there is nothing about where I was 18 years ago that would have led me to believe that I'd be delivering a commencement address ever, let alone to an accomplished and dynamic group like you. So it's from the bottom of my heart that I say today is one of the most humbling and important days of my life. I hope you take in every moment of the next few days and months. I hope you are so proud of what you have accomplished. I hope that you all stay in touch and that when you hit the bumps, you are there to remind each other that it'll be okay, because it will. I know during your freshman orientation, you lit candles to represent letting your light shine during your 4 years here at St. Ben's. Take that with you. When you are feeling uneasy, light that candle and think about how far you've come since your freshman year. Good luck, class of 2016. You will be great.